13th, 2022 CRA meeting. Thank you, Vice Mayor. We do have a quorum, so I will call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence, and may we remember the victims and first responders of 9/11. And the pledge to the flag. Clerk, would you please read the rules to speak?
Yes. Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Sign-up cards are available on the table in the council chamber. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions and requests from the public present. No sign-up card is required. Citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all agenda items. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to City Council shall be placed in the box on the table in the council chamber.
Thank you very much. Moving on, do I have a motion to approve the CRA minutes of June 14th? I'm sorry.
So moved. August 9th.
Okay, August 9th?
Yeah.
I didn't correct that on the previous one, I guess, so. August 9th, do I have that motion?
Yes.
I have the motion and a second. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Minutes accepted. City Manager.
On to item 8A. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and CRA board members. The first agenda item is the FY 2023 CRA budget. It's requested that the CRA approve the FY 2023 budget and resolution number 18/2022 to transmit the budget to the City Council for adoption on the final budget hearing on 22 September 22 as part of the adopted budget. An overview of the proposed budget is in your packet for your review, and Mr. Ford is here to answer questions that you may have on this request.
Council? I'm just going to keep saying council. Council Member Ball?
I have one very quick question, and I did go back and look at the March 8th slides and such, and they obviously they do all align. They're good. I'm in favor of the budget. I noticed that back then we talked about Trail Town amenities, and did we have to drop that, or is that folded into one of these other categories? And I just don't see the term Trail Town amenities.
What has happened is that because of the decrease in the millage rate, we needed the funds to balance the budget, and we have a pretty healthy account in Trails Town amenities. So that's already in the system, so we don't need to add any more funds to that account.
Okay, very good. Thanks for the explanation.
Just in quick summary, we had to decrease our operating by 3% as a result of the decrease.
Yes, I did see there
Yes,
were
sir.
some adjustments required. And a question that was answered for me, but I just think it would be useful and informative to the public and well-received to discuss what the stormwater infrastructure improvements are, just briefly.
The stormwater improvement structures are the tree box wells or tree box filters that will be placed throughout the mainly in the commons area between Main Street and the Stephen House Way.
The purpose of those being to collect tree leaves before they end up in the stormwater system
It's
and
the filter
ultimately in the lagoon?
filter stormwater. Basically, you're cutting concrete, putting in a tree with a filtration system underneath. Stormwater runs into it. You have a combination of a tree plus stormwater filtration.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I had alluded to the question before, and I just don't see it. When it comes down to affordable housing, do we have a line item for that?
We do not have a line item for that at this time. But getting into our later items with our new proposed redevelopment plan, we'll be having goals, objectives, and policies towards that, so future budgets can provide for affordable housing projects and or affordable housing programs, rather, I should say, instead of projects, programs.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that to council's attention so you know that we are going to be focusing on that because that's pretty important. And as you can see, Brevard County is trying to do something also. And I think there was some kind of edict that came down from the Brevard County too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
got that letter.
Okay. Thank
Member
you.
Nelson.
Tim, I'm seeing here that we're putting, what was it, 286 aside for the Spaceview Park Pier. That's in addition to the amount we already set aside, right?
Correct.
So how much total do we have right now?
We have approximately $800,000
Wow.
that is set aside, and we're in the final design phase. I wish Kevin was here, but he could probably give you more
Yeah.
detail. But we're in the final design phase with the consultant. Then they'll bring back their cost estimates and the plans for the board to review to determine what you want to do moving forward.
Do we have any idea what that might be? I mean, I know that's a
Sure, we've had conceptual plans brought before council, and
Right.
these are the engineering drawings now. These are the final plans.
right.
The permits have been issued already, so it's just the final approval from the engineering plans perspective.
And until you go out to bid, you really don't know what the final price is going to be, and, you know, the prices are varying greatly.
Yeah.
When we first started, it appeared that 800 was more than enough money to do it, and we'll have to find out
Okay.
what the rates are, and hopefully they'll be coming back down, but,
Okay. That would be nice.
yeah.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, let me try that, and I appreciate you asking that question, but we can always budget for a certain amount of money, correct? A certain amount to be spent on this project,
Certainly, yes.
right? So, you know, it's just a question of how important we think this thing is. Is 2 million too much? Is 800,000
Right.
too much? You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
But normally, when you go out for RFQ, you have a sense of what you want to spend on this thing, right?
Yeah, we
No.
have an estimated cost, but again, these are unusual times.
Yeah.
And the estimated cost could be probably a little bit more than what we had originally estimated.
I just wanted to have the council to have a mindset of what they want to spend on this thing and how important it is for us to do it at a reasonable cost. But the challenge really is the cost of things. Something you could have gotten for 800,000 last year, the year before, maybe $1.5 million now, unfortunately, with what's going on. And as an example, at the hospital, we're building out 5th floor at the mall, and what's stopping us is doors. You can't get doors, which is kind of interesting. And they're coming from overseas. Apparently, there's only 2.
We found that getting cement is difficult as well.
Cement, too,
Even
yeah.
with the dog park shade structures, we lost a month and a half because of trying to schedule cement.
Yeah. So it's going to be real interesting, even if you get someone to give you a bid on this thing. I'm sure there's going to be some words on there about escalating costs just because of material. The materials are just unstable, I would think, right? This what you get. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask, and you kind of hit it, but I wanted to get even more specific. This budget, was this prior to the inflationary times, and will that affect us down the road?
You've been building this budget now since the beginning of January, so to answer your question, yeah, there's inflationary issues that are,
Supplies, inflation, and
Yes, sir.
it's a very fluid budget.
yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else for questions, council? If not, we'll call the cards.
1 card, Stan Johnson.
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. I'm coming up here because on the budget, I'd like you to include something. I've talked before about problems, is that when we had this sewage spill over at, on Sandpoint Park, sewage spray, so forth like that, is that there were signs. There were signs, city had signs around there, and I called, and other people called. Water Resources wouldn't respond to that number. Fact is, I'd call even City Hall, and they wouldn't respond. In other words, I was asking, turn the sewage off. So it'd be nice, you know, I'm especially thinking about people like Dr. Aker and engineer Mr. Jordan and Dr. Stokel would be interested in, you know, maybe not having it happen again. Maybe somebody would turn the fountains off. I mean, to my education experience is it's really not healthy to spray people with raw sewage, babies, children, and so forth. So I think that in the budget should consider doing something about getting the phone calls answered, City Hall and Water Resources. I mean, we put phone numbers out there, but it would think that all the millions of dollars we have be able somebody to answer the phone and respond. And when we leave messages, somebody would respond. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about. And I would think that I had signs posted. I had sign posted, and I had sign posted over there at one of the ponds, and I was the only sign posted. Only sign posted. And the wind blew heavily. It blew heavily and blew it on the sidewalk. I'm talking over there at Spaceview Park. And my goodness, this guy right here, the city manager, had my sign removed and no signs there. So in other words, we had sewage in the pond being sprayed on the sidewalk and so forth, and people, we had a heavy wind at the time, and the city even took away the signs. Well, I think that's not good. So it seemed like in your budget, you ought to do something maybe. You know, maybe wake up the city manager or something like that, because it's not good. It's not good. And you saw that a number of times I bring these little monkeys here. The monkeys represent hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Well, that's what I'm getting. It seems like when I come here, it seems like I'm when I talk to about these things, and he may be there, is that he's deaf, dumb, and blind. And maybe that's other people here, because you're not doing anything. You get nothing. So I think you should spend some money on this budget to do something about these problems. Okay, another minute?
No
Okay.
other minute.
Thank you.
Because I want to say to you that I'd like you to, when you talk about something, I don't want you to call people names and deaf, dumb, blind, etc. I've heard you talk, and sometimes you have some things I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So I'd like you to do that more than call people names.
No, sir. Listen. I disagree with you. I disagree with you
disagree.
because I should be heard. And
You are heard.
Every
single meeting.
Nobody's listening. They're
Every
not
single
doing
meeting.
anything. He's doing
All
nothing.
right, that being said, we'll get back to the next
He's doing
one.
nothing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council? I know we're not supposed to say council, but that's where I'm going.
Would
So-
you like a motion?
Go ahead. There we go. Member Nelson.
Okay, move to approve the CRA fiscal year 2023 budget and resolution number 18-2022 to transmit the budget to City Council for adoption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Member Aker?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Nelson? Chairman Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jordan?
Yes.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 8B, which is the review of the 2022 CRA redevelopment plan amendment recommendation to forward to the CRA redevelopment agency, amend to the local planning agencies for conformity review and to the comprehensive plan. A proposed 2022 redevelopment plan amendment is attached for the CRA's review and comment. The 2022 redevelopment plan updates and amends the 2015 supplemental redevelopment plan, which is attached in your packet. The proposed 2022 CRA redevelopment plan amendment is comprised of the following chapters that are listed in your packet. Staff is requesting that you review the proposed 2022 CRA redevelopment plan amendment and provide comments and input so we can forward the redevelopment plan to the local planning agencies for conformity review and to the comprehensive plan.
Council, anything? All right. Introduce yourself and we're ready to go.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Titusville CRA Governing Board. My name is John Jones with SNME 1615 Edgewater Drive, Suite 200, Orlando, Florida. Tonight I'm going to present to you an overview of the Titusville Community Redevelopment Plan update. Our agenda this evening, we're going to talk about the purpose of the plan, a summary of the community engagement, the proposed redevelopment strategies contained in the plan, the redevelopment goals and objectives and policies in the plan, also the conceptual master plan showing the location of the proposed capital improvements, the proposed capital projects, and then the next steps in the adoption schedule. All right, and there's our agenda. All right, that's better. All right, so the plan update purpose. The last plan was updated in 2015. We want to acknowledge the accomplishments and the ongoing challenges. We want to acknowledge the changes in the economic conditions. We want to acknowledge and support the plan and pending development. We wanted to update the capital projects list for the CRA and also the redevelopment programming contained in the plan. We wanted to update the tax increment financing projections and also maximize the operational time frame through 2044. We had a lot of public engagement developing this plan. Three key features of the public engagement mechanisms included stakeholder interviews, online input, and an open house workshop. With regards to the online input, we had a project-specific website created. We had about 620 visits, people coming to the website. They spent about 2.5 minutes on the website, completed 28 surveys, and provided 43 comments on that little map graphic that you see there. People were able to grab images, drag it onto the map, and leave comments, and also leave thumbs up or thumbs down on other people's comments. So they were able to comment on the comments. So you got a lot of good input there. The 5 big questions that we asked the attendees at the stakeholder interviews, at the public workshop, and also at the online website. What areas of the CRA do you visit most often and why? What areas of the CRA do you visit least often and why? What are the perceived challenges for neighborhoods and residents? What are the perceived challenges for businesses in the CRA? And what amenities would you like to see in the CRA? The proposed redevelopment strategies, it's the big 4 strategies. Number 1, support plan and program development that you have occurring in the CRA. Number 2, emphasize CRA branding and marketing. Number 3, reinforce connections to and through the CRA. These are physical connections. And number 4, housing, affordable housing. Supporting plan and program development within the CRA includes supporting the Launch Now mixed-use development, the Titusville Playhouse Venues Development Program, the Sandpoint mixed-use development, and also the City Hall Public Safety Complex development. These are the 4 big projects that you have on right now that are coming up in the CRA, and additional projects are anticipated. CRA branding and marketing, the big goals here is to establish the Titusville Performing Arts District, reinforce your historical assets and culture that you have in the CRA, enhance your existing destinations in the CRA and create new destinations, and establish and reinforce the CRA brand through wayfinding, unifying signage, and public realm improvements, establishing that sense of place. You've made a lot of great improvements in the downtown area, and they're all starting to come together. Reinforcing connections, these are physical connections. These include enhanced pedestrian connections and signalized crosswalks throughout the CRA, east-west streetscapes connecting to the neighborhoods, additional bicycle-only paths to connect to the regional trail network and the coast-to-coast trail network, sidewalk gap connections within the CRA and to the CRA, increased and improved street lighting. This was one of the concerns that came up a couple times in the public meetings, was insufficient lighting and safety concerns around parking areas that were surrounding the downtown. And then improved wayfinding signage, so people can find parking in the downtown and be directed towards certain amenities and features in the downtown. Number 4 is housing. And this is something that CRAs were designed and set up to do, was create housing in blighted areas. So the goals here for the housing redevelopment strategy include increasing the inventory of housing in downtown, utilizing vacant or underutilized parcels for additional housing development, providing a mix of residential development types so you can have different sizes, different affordability, different price points, targeting sites for redevelopment for specific residential uses, and then using public-private partnerships to help catalyze certain parcels and leverage resources in the area to get additional residential development, utilizing public and private revenue. Some of the proposed goals and objectives. So what we just talked about now was the big strategies, the big policies, that big four. The proposed goals, objectives, and strategies, these address the day-to-day operations of the CRA. So these address the administration of the CRA, housing programs, community and culture, economic development, public spaces, infrastructure, public health and safety, and the regulatory environment. One of the key things to remember about community redevelopment plans is CRAs can do anything to address blight if it's contained in your CRA plan. So if you don't address these items in your CRA plan, you can't spend tax increment funds on them. So you want to cast a very wide net and identify a range of projects and a range of programming to address a lot of unforeseen opportunities and challenges that are out there so that you have the opportunity to react to them and to utilize TIF revenue to react to them. So having this range of different strategies, goals, objectives, and policies gives you that flexibility to address a changing economic environment in the CRA. The conceptual master plan, this is another Florida statute requirement, is that you show the general location of the proposed improvements within the community redevelopment area. So here you see the conceptual master plan. We divided it into two areas, Area 1 and Area 2, just so it would be easier to see on a map. And it shows the location of the proposed capital improvements throughout the CRA. It shows the location of streetscape improvements, intersection improvements, sidewalk improvement, and trail connections. So that's the north end, and that's the south end. The next is the proposed capital projects. These are the capital projects to implement those redevelopment strategies that we identified earlier in the plan. These include streetscapes throughout the CRA. Streetscapes on Broad Street, Main Street, Julia Street, Pine Street, Orange Street, Palmetto Street, and St. John Street. Each one of these streetscapes has a specific proposed design afforded to it and a cost of the materials and construction also included in this plan. That's another requirement of the Florida statutes, is that you're able to identify a general timeline when the projects are going in, general location when the projects are going in, and a range of costs when the projects are going in. The next capital projects include public spaces and open spaces. Projects that have been identified in the plan include the Indian River Observation and Viewing Decks to provide more access to the water, Scobie Park improvements, and also trail connections to and through the CRA. Public safety capital and projects include establishing railroad quiet zones, pedestrian crosswalk improvements, and lighting improvements. Now, the public safety comments were some of the most frequently heard comments at all of our public engagement meetings. The next steps in the plan adoption process include Planning Commission review on the 21st, City Council first reading for adoption on the 27th, CRA Board consideration for adoption on October 11th, and then City Council second reading for adoption on October 11th. I'd like to thank Mr. Tim Ford for his leadership and guidance and support preparing this plan, and also Mr. Brad Parrish for his support and input preparing this plan. It couldn't have been done without their input and without their heavy lifting. So you've got some great staff here, and it's been a pleasure to work with them.
Thank you. Council, questions? I see there. Member Ball.
Are we addressing the entire plan at this point, right, as a draft?
Yes, sir.
I want to say quickly, but in general, the first community redevelopment plan was adopted in 1984, 38 years ago. I became a new member of this council about 6 months after that, and I've been involved in trying to implement just about every plan since. The tax base has seen substantial growth over that time, and largely due to the projects and initiatives and the policies and the efforts and care of the CRA and the council. for the community redevelopment. I think this plan is the most comprehensive of any of them I've seen over the years, and the most forward-looking, and really has a great potential to usher in the future of the downtown. So having said that, I focused, and will keep my comments brief, to some of the goals, objectives, and policies. I want to ping off one of the strategies, and that strategy is to support planned and program development in the CRA. It speaks to potential use of regulatory and financial incentives. I'll come back to that. So by way of just input for you, I know some others are going to get a chance to weigh in on this before it comes back to us for
Yes, sir.
adoption. I want to comment on, first on goal 7.2. Goal 7.2 is the one that is really a high priority for me: improve pedestrian and bicyclist safety within the CRA. I think you guys nailed it on the policies associated with that. I especially like the concept of raised crosswalk speed tables. And it's, it doesn't give all the solutions, but it definitely touches on all the policies that will make the downtown a safer place to walk around in or ride your bicycle in. I'll now go to goal 2.1, the workforce housing. Only a comment there. I think that's a much-needed element in the plan, so I do echo member.
Somebody.
Yeah. Echo the comments that have been made previously regarding the need for a housing element there. And I want to say that I think one of the things that, say, Titusville Playhouse is doing to address workforce housing has been to acquire the Palm Hotel and Apartments. So with that, we're actually making workforce housing available at the most affordable cost, no cost, for interns and employees we brought into TPI. The one suggestion I have for maybe a modification comes in goal 3.1 and 3.2. My concern is that there is a word in goal 3.1 I'm a little concerned about. Is preserve, restore, and promote Titusville's historic assets and resources. Restore, I wonder if that's the right word. And the reason I say that is because that can be perhaps interpreted to mean restore it back to the way it was. My concern is that with our historic assets, they're not likely to be feasibly ever restored to exactly what they were in the past. I agree 100% with the preservation. I'd prefer to see a word like adapt, preserve, adapt, and promote Titusville's historic assets. And when you look at the policies 3.1.1.4 and 3.1.1.5, there is a concern that I have, again, going back to strategies to talk about regulatory incentives, that we not create regulatory disincentives by having very stringent requirements for what you can and cannot do with a historic structure, especially one that's been listed. And so I want to try to have policies that emphasize what you can and should do as far as preserving structures, and provide flexibility when it comes down to things that are discretionary, like perhaps what shade you might repaint a building. The concern being if the idea is to restore the downtown historic assets to what they were, if you go back 100 years, the only thing that existed downtown as far as colors were bare brick, bare wood, and whitewash. So if you can only do what it is now, repaint it the way it is or the way it was, I'm concerned that that's going to be a regulatory disincentive. Having said that, I think both goals are not mutually exclusive. It's in how they're implemented and how those policies are interpreted. So, that's it. Thank you.
Member Stokel.
Thank you. Just a few comments.
Yes, ma'am.
One, I think you did an excellent job on, to Member Ball's point, being comprehensive. I like that you have a wide range of ideas that gives us a lot of, I don't want to say leeway, but we have a lot of room where we can make improvements where we see fit. So I appreciate that. I also think I would have liked more responses, but I know we can't control that. But I also look at it as a positive that the citizens are trusting us to make good decisions that align with what they're hoping will happen. I did want to ask about parking specifically, and if your comments related to that moving forward, if you wanted to share.
Yeah. Bear with me here. With regards to parking, the parking is something that's traditionally addressed, and I got some prepared comments here because we anticipated some
Yes.
discussion regarding this. Parking is something that's traditionally addressed by the city's land development regulations via the development review and approval process for new development. And it's a general city function and not a focus of the CRA. The current land development regulations address parking in the CRA throughout the city. If the city wants more parking in the downtown in addition to what is currently provided by the LDRs, the city may increase a parking space requirement or seek to develop parking structures in the downtown when the demand warrants it. Currently, the city and the CRA only experience parking issues on special events or activities such as a farmer's market or launches. And currently, the city utilizes temporary parking within the CRA on several vacant sites in the downtown. The CRA, by its very nature and narrowly defined purpose, is limited as to what it can do to address parking needs that are generally seen as a city land development regulation function. However, the CRA plan is not silent on parking. There are numerous references to parking and the provision of parking within the plan, and let me go through them. There are several vacant opportunity sites that have been identified in the CRA plan that have been and may continue to be utilized by the city to accommodate special event or activity and surface parking. These are listed on page 30 and 34. The proposed Main Street Phase 2 improvement on page 2, that proposed streetscape improvement, will add 14 additional on-street parking spaces to the available inventory. The future streetscape improvements identified on pages 17 through 21 will also seek to identify opportunities to provide additional on-street parking. The CRA plan also currently enables the CRA to enter into a development agreement with the private sector developers when the provision of additional parking may be addressed through the development of additional surface parking or structured parking, and that's on page 49. The CRA plan also proposes the use of zoning overlays where parking requirements may be further addressed. The CRA also proposes the use of wayfinding signage to direct residents and visitors where they can find parking. That's on page 23. The CRA's proposed, or the CRA plans, proposed streetscaping, pedestrian, and bicycle improvements are intended to reduce the demand and the need for the use of automobiles in the downtown, and by that will reduce the demand for parking within the downtown as well. That's pages 17 through 21. However, the CRA plan or the CRA board cannot amend the land development regulations. And that's something that addresses a provision of parking within the CRA, and that's a city council function. So we can enable the CRA to take part in a discussion about the provision of parking. We can enable the CRA board to enter into development agreements, private sector to help augment and supplement the available supply of parking. And we can also, engender the CRA to seek additional parking through the development of its streetscape designs. But that's kind of the limit as to what the CRA can do with regards to parking. We can design it, we can fund it, but we can't write the rules for it.
I think you'll find at your next presentation meetings, as we discuss the public safety facility as well as the proposed new city hall, that there will be a huge increase in parking
Okay.
associated with those.
Thank you. And thank you for being very well prepared for that question. I was impressed. And the reason I ask it, and we talk about this at a lot of our CRA meetings, is with our growth that's happening, I just want us to be very proactive as we are getting more residents here. So when they do come and we do start to fill up more, that we have a good plan in place that's very strategic.
Yes.
Which does lead to what you alluded to, the wayfinding signs, the signage. Can we be more proactive and aware regarding that? And what I like to see and would hope to see through this plan, and as we move forward, that I feel like we kind of lack right now, which I don't know the answer to it, is to have an overall feel or culture. When you come to downtown Titusville, this is what I feel. Like when you go to Cocoa Village, you have a certain feeling, you know what to expect there. And I feel like we're trying, and like different places will open up, and I think that everyone in our city wants that. It's just very difficult to maneuver and figure out how to get there. So that is what I'm hoping for. I really enjoy the plan. I feel like you covered a lot. The last comment I have to make is more, I feel like, for our side of things. I know our last time we did this, it seems like 7 years ago. I'm thinking, for me personally, I don't know how the board feels, I would like to maybe not go through this entire process, but to get briefed on our plan so we keep that at the forefront of our mind when things come before us, that we go back to this and in our face every couple years or whatnot, versus every 7 years, just so we can continue the trajectory and the passion and excitement. That's all.
Thank you, Member Nelson.
I have to say, I love the way our downtown looks today compared to what it looked like 10, 20 years ago when you went downtown, and it was absolutely depressing.
5
So-
to 8 years ago.
Yeah, even 8 years ago. But to member Ball's thought, perhaps a way to put this is that we talk about adaptive reuse of these buildings as opposed to the resource preservation and promotion, that we encourage adaptive reuse of these buildings. So that might sort of get us there without making it too, I don't know. What do you guys think? Tim, what do you think?
I think your Carter House is a perfect example of adapted reuse.
Oh, yeah. They had to put up with me for years.
I think most of the downtown is experiencing adaptive reuse with the buildings going in. I think what Mr. Ball's issue is, and I think also with Mr. Aker, who are investing in our downtown, we have an issue with our preservation ordinance that requires that if you're designated as a historic structure, you have to go before the historic board to do any kind of changes, and that even includes paint colors. So that's an issue that should be maybe tackled with the historic preservation ordinance, that if the board and the council feel that it is an issue.
I didn't think it was that bad going through the historic board. But like Member Ball said, I don't want us to get to the point where we're telling people, no, we can't do something. Is there a happy medium there? I don't know. What do you guys think?
In our audience is somebody that's experienced 2.5 to 3 years
smiling.
of trying, 5 years now, of trying to work through the historic challenges that were presented. And I don't want to speak for you, but I can kind of suggest that it dramatically slowed the project down.
But that was on a federal level, I may add.
Okay, but not on a local level.
I don't think the
Member
local
Ball.
level was too bad.
If I might just to comment on what you're saying there is it's important not to have unintended consequences of an ordinance that is well-intended and probably at its core a really good thing to consider doing, historic preservation of our resources that are still standing. At the same time, it's important that where discretion is allowed, and discretion is allowed, that we encourage policies that apply that discretion in a reasonable way to encourage commercial reuse of a historic structure. If you tell a business coming into town that has a certain brand in mind, we'd love to have you here, but oh, by the way, you cannot paint this building to reflect the brand that's important to you, when in fact the paint color is not going to change the architectural integrity of the building, just going to change the way it looks, then that's not much of an incentive for that business to locate here. So that's all I'm really saying, and it's not any one property's problem, but if there's a policy that says we want to encourage people that have historic assets to get them listed, I can tell you from conversation with the management of the Playhouse, we will not seek designation because of what we would have to go through
Good
if we
point.
wanted to change a window.
You good?
Nothing to say, nothing to add.
That quite honestly could be a whole nother meeting. I'll be honest with you, that whole discussion. And I'm like, let's try not to go with that whole nother meeting yet. Member Robinson.
Yes, I think it was covered. I've gone through with the Carter House and all of that to try to make it work. I think that we should do our best, but there is some things that you have to move forward on, and I agree with that. So I had a lot of input until everyone else inputted it.
And I purposely am, and kind of, I'm not the guy who's down in the CRA like these guys are. They all have some involvement down there more than I, and I like to hear how they feel about it. I generally try to stay away from overreach and over-guiding. Can't paint this, can't do that. But I realize there's some laws, ordinances, and some laws above us federally that we can't deal with. What I would like to comment on simply as I saw this was how incredibly well done this report was, how it's broken down. I think the plan of dividing things up, I thought it was outstanding and fascinating. Having been here to watch them get started with this and go to several of the sessions, I'm very pleased that it comes across to me that this group did all they could to include various angles, different people's thoughts. Because when you have the numbers you talked about, those are good numbers, but they're not great numbers. And then your whole report could be skewed by one group or one section of people who got involved and got on the internet and did that. I don't think that was the case, especially coming with your report. I think everyone appears to be well represented, and that was my biggest concern. And I think you did a good job with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. You have your staff to thank for that, for forcing us and providing us with the range of different stakeholders and different groups to invite and different venues to use to contact people.
Absolutely,
whether
because
it's
if you
in
just do it
person
on the
or online.
internet, you're going to get whoever is interested enough to get there. But you guys went to various events
Right.
throughout the year, and I saw you at so many events and did a good job of getting out there to get the people. I think it's a well-represented program, and I would say that was my biggest concern, and I think that you've met that. Vice Mayor.
Yeah. I'm not going to be negative, but I've always had this concern. I've said
Yes,
it
sir.
over and over and over again. The biggest mistake we've made from downtown is that we took the parking off of the streets. What we have is a speedway, and it's very difficult for people to see what's going on if you're speeding through town.
Yes, sir.
Right, and so my question really is, what's our end game? What are we looking for at the end? When we do all these things, what is downtown gonna look like? And to me, if we don't do anything about the traffic, forget about the parking, just the traffic that's coming downtown, speeding downtown, it's very hard to have that ambiance like Cocoa Village is of, hey, I see this nice restaurant, I see this historic place, I wanna stop, because I'm afraid I'm gonna get hit if I slow down,
Understood.
trying to see these things. So I got a big concern with that, and I'm with you, Member Ball. When you have a project, you want to get that project done because, time is money, for sure. And so it's one thing to try to preserve as much as possible, but when it comes down to, you got to keep the windows and you got to keep you know, awnings and the color. And to me, we need to colorize, if you will, downtown, in my opinion. We need to make it a destination, but it has to be a destination where people feel comfortable that they're going to have a place to park for sure.
Yes, sir.
But also they don't have to worry about getting run over when they come downtown. Downtown, in my mind, has always been a slow place, not a fast pace, you know, not a Indy 500 or anything like that. And I think that's one of the problems that we have. We even thought about maybe moving US 1 and all this good stuff, but then you're taking them off downtown. So I honestly don't know the answer. The one thing came to my mind is, forget about it. I believe we have enough parking downtown right now, but there's a perception problem that we don't have. And I always use the fact that when you go to a basketball game in Orlando, you don't mind walking a mile to get to the arena. But when it comes down to downtown here, you don't want to walk a block. So one of the ideas I would have is that we have some kind of tram. But if you have a tram, then you certainly need the traffic to slow down so you can get in and off of the thing, right? So I'm just looking. I appreciate what you did. You did an excellent job for sure. We got all the things in there. Of course, I'm thinking about horizon development. They're definitely going to take care of some of the housing problems in the CRA for sure. Affordable housing, I don't even know what that means.
No, good.
Honest to God, I don't know. It's, you know.
Good point.
It's a moving target, sir.
Yeah, you know, it's ridiculous what things are costing now. You know, it's just.
Good point.
It's not going to get any better. So the question is, what are we going to put up there? I mean, I think someone said something about a week's pay in rent, or maybe 2 weeks' pay in rent or mortgage is what you should be paying for a house. But I don't know I don't know who they're talking about. Are they talking about me, or are they talking about somebody who's just starting in their career? Or are they talking about someone who has a minimum wage job, $15 an hour? I don't know. But you've got a strong task ahead of you. Of course, you've done a good job for sure. But I'm just concerned about where we're going. I wish I'm a visual person, so I'd like to see a picture of what we're going towards. You know, a roadmap to this is what it's going to be at the end of our journey. And right now, I just don't see it.
Vice Mayor, there's certain limitations as to what the city can do with regards to the jurisdiction of the roadways that run through the CRA. However, you do have the ability to put in traffic calming devices, safety improvements at intersections, and increased lighting. And the presence of those should slow traffic. Having a two-lane wide road, the wider the road, the faster the cars go. It's just human nature.
All right.
As you narrow the roads, cars go slower. But if you give them a larger thoroughfare, they go faster.
Yeah, we member Robinson and I know all about that. We're on the TPO, so
Okay.
we know all about that. So you're not telling us anything we don't know. But we've got to do something. And
Yes, sir.
you made a good point. You know, we don't have jurisdiction on US 1.
Correct.
But we do have a say-so. We can talk to the right people, Department of Transportation or something, and say, we like for you to study how we can slow down the traffic by putting in parking, again, parallel parking or vertical parking, whatever it is. I honestly think that's one of the things that we definitely need to do. I'll say it again, I think it was a mistake when we decided to make it a thoroughfare, in my mind. Thank you, but good report.
And
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor.
beaten that idea to death, you and I. We both agreed when it happened. I very honestly don't think I've seen traffic slow down because we narrowed the roadway. And I'll just say it one more time. I was fortunate to work at a school in Cocoa Village the last 4 or 5 months. It's a whole different ballgame down there. They're all side streets. You don't have US 1 going through the middle of Cocoa Village and say, there it went. That's something I don't know how we deal with except to, focus on our side streets and the main street. But point well taken. Member Aker.
Originally, the parking plan, the plan was for US 1 to have a turn in it before it got to US 1, but the final thing was this straight thoroughfare. I think one thing that'd be very helpful, obviously, from that standpoint, would be getting that traffic light back at Julia Street. They took it away because of a traffic study, said this traffic light's going to do X amount of accidents and deaths related to that. Well, I think you're still going to have the same amount of accidents with the button that we push and the flashing lights in the road. I think you got more of a problem with that than you do a red light that goes in there. So that's all stuff that we need to talk to the DOT, because the people that were in the DOT once upon a time are, you know, their philosophies hopefully change over time. We might have a shot at putting a traffic light back in there, which would at least give us breaks in the traffic. As far as the plan goes, is this set up with a priority of what we prioritize? Like,
Yes,
we
sir.
work on this first, we work on
Yes,
this
sir.
second, this
There's a
third?
proposed implementation schedule in the back of the document that gives you a year by year through 2044 of proposed priorities for projects. But the CRA actually sets the priorities for the projects every year when you develop your work program. This is only a guide. So as conditions change and as opportunities present themselves, you can look at the long-term implementation plan as a menu, and you can pick items off that menu to include in your annual work plan.
And that's where I think our next job is. It's one thing to make the plan, it's the other thing to implement the plan.
Correct.
I like what Member Stokel was saying about we've got to revisit this, and maybe not just once a year, you know, because I remember I was around with the last time that we did the planning, and it kind of gave us guidelines, but we never really revisit those guidelines. I think if we keep this front and center, it can help guide us when we make the changes. Another comment I want to say, I'm doing some renovations myself on a building downtown. I'll say that things are going pretty easy. I mean, the city's been great to work with. We've been going through the permitting processes, grease trap and stuff. We just haven't been running into many roadblocks. As far as the painting of the buildings, I think it's fine the way that we're handling it. I don't think there's too many obstacles there. I do have to wait a couple of months to get before places to get permission on that if I'm going to change colors, but you know, it's not that big of an impediment unless you have somebody who's got a brand that they want to move forward. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good job.
Very good. Member Ball.
Yeah, just a final comment. I couldn't agree more with Member Jordan, and apologize for the senior moment a while back regarding the housing, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about that in a moment. But I couldn't agree more with you regarding the traffic, and I do note that the plan had in it the suggestion to explore a joint planning agreement with FDOT, and I don't know of any reason why the city of Titusville as a municipality can't enter into a unilateral joint planning agreement with FDOT, independent of Space Coast TPO. Maybe it can't, but I don't know why it couldn't on issues that are specific to say the downtown. And that was a good suggestion. Couldn't agree more with Member Stokel, and then endorsed by others that we need to revisit. Are we aligning what we do with the plan and the policies? And I know that staff often tries to say this relates to this goal, this, and you know, maybe just not in our plan, but also in broader community objectives. But you may have to hit us between the eyes with it occasionally on how are we implementing this plan by what's coming before us. And I think waiting a year probably is too long to come back and do a gut check. And if we have to change the policies, we change the policies. Last thing is that this plan, again, and it's important I think we're all recognizing it, but for the public to understand that for years and years, our plans only focused on north-south, what was coming down one way on Washington and the other way on Hopkins. This plan takes a very holistic view of the entire CRA, and for the first time really envisions the implementation of east-west circulation of traffic, both cars and people and bikes and business. And it's just the right way to look at how we develop the downtown is not over a single corridor, but looking at the east-west connections and how do we optimize that. The opportunity sites, if you guys haven't had a chance to really look at what they flagged as opportunities, are really well thought through.
All right, I see no more lights on that. City Manager, just so I understand, we are simply reviewing this. There's no vote at this time on this. Or with that, are there any cards on this?
One card, Stan Johnston.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much, ladies and
I was
gentlemen.
staying. You'd wait for me to clear. You look like you're in the zone there, buddy.
Well, I was waiting.
All right.
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. And I'm speaking to you as I've been here over 50 years, and I've enjoyed parts of the CRA area, especially Sandpoint Park area, and we used to have the Indian River festivals and so forth, and races, and all kinds of activities down there in the river, and along the river, and along a lot of parking of cars and so forth, and some fun events. Well, we don't have the Indian River Festival anymore. The Birding Festival used to have some even events there too. Don't have that anymore. Fishing tournaments, we don't have that anymore. We used to have water ski jumps over there at Parish Park. Don't have that anymore. People used to get baptized over there at Sandpoint Park. In fact, I was too. I don't think they have that anymore. So, in fact, I was over at the river the other day, and I tried to scoop up some things with a net. I got these little tiny hermit crabs about that size, and I said to myself, you know what? That's about the size you're ever going to get of a hermit crab anymore, because there are no more of these univalves that are big enough for the hermit crabs that when they get older. It's gone. I don't see any needlefish and so forth like that. So I think that the CRA should also think about what's going on in the river and the space launches and so forth like that. And it was very distressing to me is when the city was planning on doing a $26 million sports complex, or whatever you want to call it, that some people were promoting. And it was also distressing to me about this $6 million parking garage that was proposed for, I was on the books for, I don't know, maybe 8 years or so. And it scares me that you might do the same thing again. And it's disturbing to me is that there's nothing emphasis on what's going on in the river and activities and so forth. Because the activities, I believe, is what makes this community. And those aren't, what you're talking about doesn't seem like activities. And I agree with Mr. Jordan when he says affordable housing is sort of like an oxymoron.
Yeah, it really is.
It's so we've got problems, but I think that you're missing some things because they did a lot of interaction there at the centers as far as collecting information, and I didn't see that was presented tonight. And so I'm concerned with where you're going, what you're doing, because I think we're missing it when we need to include more about what's going on with the river. Clean it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see nobody else up here needs standing city attorney.
Yes, Chairman, can I just get a consensus of council that you want this forwarded as presented to the LPA, which is your plan and zoning group, to provide an analysis with regard to consistency with the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought we were getting at.
Okay.
So do we need to do a vote on that or just we agree?
Do you agree?
We agree.
Everybody agrees with that? Anybody have any no's? City manager.
Okay, on to item 8C, which is Brevard County Commission letter regarding the CRA plan and affordable housing. The city received a letter from the Brevard County Commission regarding affordable housing crisis in the nation and the development of an affordable housing within the city of Titusville CRA district. The Brevard County Commission urges the city of Titusville CRA to consider the affordable housing crisis, make redevelopment plans changes to address the affordable housing in the CRA, and provide investment in affordable housing. The CRA's agenda tonight, which you just viewed, does contain within the plan redevelopment and affordable housing strategies. A draft response to the letter noting these changes is in the proposed redevelopment plan update, and an attached letter for your consideration to be sent back to the board is part of this packet.
Yes, we did write a response, and I think we all agree. It was discussed at great length up here that affordable housing definitely needs to be part of what we're going to do in the CRA. So I think we're all in agreement there. Again, the term affordable is an interesting thing these days. But Vice Mayor, do you have something or no? Okay. With that, anybody else want to say anything concerning, again, we've said a lot about that. I think it's clear that we are all in support of that. And I think we could even bounce that to the council, the staff, everybody who has any conversation. We need affordable housing just like everybody else in this state and county and nation. Anything else we need to do with that?
The letter that we've drafted, it is for your signature, so I'm requesting the CRA approve you to sign that letter and send it.
Do you
Okay.
want,
Get a motion
do you
to
want a
state that.
motion?
Okay, Member Nelson.
Okay, then I would make that motion that Mayor Diesel will sign the letter and send it to the county commission.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't know that, but I bet we do. I don't know that, but I bet we do. Hold that yes and no. Call the card, please.
1 card, Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, how would I know anything about affordable housing? How would I know? And I'll tell you what, something's going on about when you use the word affordable is, and the problems which we've had in our government. And I was shocked long before 2008 when I learned that people could get loans for houses without being any verification of their income. This was nationwide. How could this have happened in our country? I mean, my understanding is that some people had fictitious names for some of these people that bought houses. They even used a dog's name and so forth. All kinds of crazy stories. So what I'm saying about the affordable housing, this was something, a lot of it was artificially created by our government. It's crazy. It's crazy what happened here. I mean, we had the crash in 2008 and unbelievable things happening on the stock market. And so this is something that our government created. Our government created it so that it's unaffordable. And it's a horrible thing that's happened. And the oxycodone and other crises that's going on that's destroying people. This is not just has to do with housing. This has to do with our government and what it has done and what it's done to destroy our culture. And it's horrible. It's horrible. And I think there should be a recognition that it's not just money. I mean, right now my money is being less and less and less because our government is spending so much money. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The inflation is ridiculous. I mean, the cost of housing here in Titusville has dramatically increased inflation-wise, and it's understandable. That's the way we might say our capitalistic system is, but still, it doesn't. Our government has caused a lot of the problems, and it continues to cause the problems. So thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's do that over. Can you give me that motion, please?
Let's see. I move that we approve you signing the letter to the county commission as written.
And I have a motion and a second. And now all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes. City Manager.
On to item 8D, which is the commercial beautification grant for a property located at 5 Main Street. The property is located at 5 Main Street within the downtown subdistrict of the Community Redevelopment District. The owner, Mars Moonshot LLC, is applying to re-roof the building. Roof repairs are listed as an eligible expense in the Commercial Beautification Facade Improvement Program. The application indicates that the long-term vision for the building may include using the rooftop for a launch viewing and entertainment place. The total cost of the low bid re-roof is $82,345. The total amount for the reimbursement is 50% of the total, which comes to $40,000 maximum cap. Funds are available within the CRA Building Grants 2022 budget to cover the expense. Staff is recommending approval of the commercial beautification grant in the amount of $40,000 to Mars Moonshot LLC for the property located at 5 Main Street.
Very good. Any comments from council? I see none. Any cards?
One card, Stan Johnston.
Thank you, sir. Motion, please.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the award of the commercial grant in the amount of $40,000 to Mars Moonshot.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Jordan, or Vice Chair Jordan, and Member Ball.
Second?
I have a second from Member Ball. Roll call vote.
Member Robinson,
Yes.
Member Nelson,
Yes.
Chairman Diesel.
Yes.
Vice Chair Jordan.
Yes.
Member Ball,
Yes.
Member Sokol,
Yes.
Member Aker.
Yes.
No, you used that many. That's two more. Motion passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 8E, which is a memorandum of understanding for the Titusville Area Chamber of Commerce to continue to operate the Fall 2022 Farmers Market Token Program and to set a location to hold the markets and improve the associated budget amendments. Past farmers market events have been held on Stephen House Way in the Julia Street portions of the Mariners Way south of Julia Street Court. Due to the popularity of the program and the number of people attending the farmers market, there have been complaints from some local merchants that the traveling public about the traffic congestion on South Washington Avenue and a lack of available parking spaces in the downtown for the downtown businesses. A possible alternative location to the farmers market event is Sandpoint Park. Changing the location of the event to Sandpoint Park does have some infrastructure and operational cost as opposed to holding the events at the current downtown location because of the logistics involved in moving the event. The additional cost involved in moving the events will be taken from the program budget. The draft MOU is provided for each location. Titusville Chamber of Commerce President and CEO, Ms. Atkins, is here to address any issues that you may have, and we are still planning on doing 7 events this year.
All right, very good. Anything more from staff before we move forward? Member Robinson?
Yes, a couple of questions. One is that, looking forward, how many more of these activities, I know you just said 7, past that particular number, is this going to continue?
That exhausts our affordable ARP funds, yes.
Okay, thank you. Next question is has there been any injuries, any bad conduct, any accidents that has been involved or happened while this activity was going on?
Mr. Ford did have a paper cut on one of the registration dates that we were able to provide
You do emergency
the care
surgery on
to
it?
him, but I'm not aware of any, but
There was
Aaron may.
one small fender bender at one market the time before last that I don't think was caused by pedestrians or too much traffic. I think somebody just changed
Law
lanes
enforcement
improperly.
officers came, or it
Yes.
was?
Yes.
Okay. All right, those are the two questions that I had.
Vice Chair.
Yeah. How much are we talking about if we move this thing? What's the impact?
So to keep it in downtown, our projections are no more than 17,000 in staffing and no more than 8,000 in infrastructure total. To move it to Sandpoint Park, we're looking at probably 25,000 in staffing and 16,000 in infrastructure. We're gonna have to rent a truck to move it back and forth, all of the infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm not in agreement that we should be moving this thing. To me, it's a positive to have that many people downtown. It's a win-win. We're trying to get activity downtown, and now we're going to move some of the activity to Sandpoint Park. That, in my mind, just doesn't make any sense at all. As far as complaints, to me, it's a benefit to those downtown because I would hope some of that walking traffic would go and frequent some of those places there. So you're shaking your head, so I assume that's what you
I
want,
agree.
right?
I agree 100%.
Yeah, well, you're the one that have to implement the thing, and certainly we don't want to put any undue pressure on you, because it's a great program
It
for
is.
sure. And I think we're the only city that's doing something like this with those funds. So I'm all for us keeping it exactly where it is. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing
Thank you.
a great job for sure. And when you start taking money for operations that we have said we want to go to the citizens, then there's something wrong with that, in my opinion. So, Council, I'm just in agreement that we should keep it the way it is.
We have a lot of lights, and we probably should have gone to you first. With that said, Vice Mayor will do that to you. But with that said, everybody hold just a second, because you kind of had an agreement there with Vice Mayor, and that's good. I'd kind of like to hear how you feel about how things have gone, how they would go if they were moved. Just your feel, and of course, introduce yourself for the first time up here, I think.
So I'm Erin Akins. I'm the president of the Titusville Chamber of Commerce for 2 months now. So thank you for having me. This program was put into place before I became president, and thank you so much for putting the program into place. The residents of town are very grateful. It's very heartwarming to come out and volunteer at the market, and I would open that opportunity to any of you to come help us work it, to hear exactly how thankful they all are. Moving it to Sandpoint Park would not be a terrible idea for the fact that there's much more parking, there's a lot of space to spread out, but we come into challenges with Wi-Fi. Everything that we do is technology-based, there's no paper. In downtown, we can use the city's Wi-Fi, and all that infrastructure is already set up. Our staff is also 4 full-time, 1 part-time person, so hiring additional staff and renting vehicles to move the tables, the tents, and the chairs back and forth from Sandpoint Park, challenging. I also have hesitations about weather. So bad weather rolls in, we can run to the Welcome Center for a safe haven. We don't have that at Sandpoint Park. I am very sad that the merchants cannot find opportunity in the crowd that's downtown, and that their complaints come from a lack of parking, and that we're taking away from their clientele instead of expanding their business to the clients that come to the market. I'm willing to work with them to the best of our ability, and if this council would like to move it for the fact of that, we'll do what we have to.
And thank you very much, and I think everybody up here to a person would say that this is an outstanding event. I think we've probably all been down there, I know I have. And people just coming up sometimes and saying thank you, just wanting to thank somebody. And I go back to when this all started with this art money, and city manager and team was very intent on getting it to the people. And this is not something that's going on in every city. And as I heard, I don't know if it's going on in any other city. So I'm very pleased about that. It was the right call. We just got to figure out how to make it work best. Your input is extremely important, I'm sure, as we move forward. And from there, we'll go to Member Aker.
Is there a timing issue with the merchants of downtown? Is there a peak parking time or a peak time where parking becomes a challenge to them? So can we shift the timing of the event to maybe address, without shifting the location, to address some of the concerns? Is just a thought that I had.
So we would be open to shifting the time. I don't know what the nature of that was. Maybe Scott has more on that.
I really haven't thought through that per se. I know opening at 3 o'clock, we have folks lining up at 10 o'clock in the morning. And by the time we actually open it, the line is almost to the towers. So I don't know if by shifting the time, if that would really change any of the parking challenges.
Well, when I say time, maybe the day.
Yeah.
We have discussed having it on a weekend when we first originally came up with the concept, and the vendors also go to other places during the weekend events, and so they really preferred locking in on Friday.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, my initial thought was Saturday morning, because I know the parking and stuff's not, businesses don't really get going, except for a couple of them, don't get going until later in the day.
Yeah, we would lose at least 4 of the big vendors that I know of, one of them being the meat vendor, would bail.
Yeah, right, and we're talking 7 events.
Up to 7,
Right,
depending on the funding.
okay.
Member Ball.
I agree with Member Jordan, and I think the key point here is that understanding and respecting that there are some impacts probably on some of the merchants. I don't believe that's a universal circumstance. We're looking at only 7 events, second and fourth Friday for a limited amount of time. And the key for me, like it was for you, I think, is we're taking beneficial money away from people that this was intended to support for a program that's not going to last very much longer. And I would prefer to see us not do that as the primary reason. I would support keeping it where it is for the duration of the program.
Member Stokel.
A lot of the comments that I was going to make have already been stated, but looking at this, one of the difficult situations of being in our position is we can't make everyone happy, but what I try to do is look at the pros and cons, and what I'm hearing is a $20,000 difference up to 7 markets, and I did think about the timing, and maybe we can hear from the public as well, but I was thinking that's probably the best timing is at 3 to 5. Like, I'd hate to have it right in the middle of lunchtime. I'd hate to have it at a dinner time. 3 to 5 typically. I know some of them do start lining up early, and I would hope that some of them would visit the merchants as well, or somebody's waiting in line and then a family member goes and walks and gets something to eat or whatnot. So just hearing those and weighing the pros and cons, I feel like it's working, but I do want to hear from the citizens as well. Thank you.
Member Nelson.
Well, on behalf of the merchants, I mean, they've gone through a rough time over the last couple of years, and they've stuck it out down there. And so I sort of feel for them. What they're saying to me is people don't want to park. They have a lot of elderly people coming down there that don't want to park, can't find parking, can't walk. And so it makes it hard on them. So I hate to spend money on moving to Sandpoint, but could we maybe do something on a Thursday night or Thursday afternoon?
So we could check with the Brevard County Farmers Market. They're who organize the vendors to have them poll the vendors that participate and find out if they would be open. From a chamber perspective, we'll serve the community. We'll do it on Friday. We can do it on Saturday. That's not a decision.
Or what
factor
about
to
a
us.
Sunday afternoon?
Doesn't that affect your vendors?
No, I know we did poll before. The weekends were just out because of the number of vendors that all already go to different farmers markets during that. So they really wanted a weekday. I know at least a couple of them said Friday works best for them because they have their gear already loaded.
Okay.
So they go do our market and then they pack it up and then they're ready for the next day on a Saturday to continue to go to wherever they're going.
So, but maybe Thursday, they'd be willing to do Thursday.
Sure, we can poll.
Yeah.
You bet.
Happy to ask.
Yeah.
Happy to ask.
I
And
think that-
I would ask, and maybe this is better suited for staff, are the merchants allowed to block off parking spots for their clients for that day? No? Okay.
No.
I've had them
So,
ask me. I don't know.
I
the
know,
answer.
I know. And I just hate to see them suffer. They've gone through a rough, years where the business downtowns have suffered.
Understand
So
completely.
I hate to see them suffer anymore.
More parking.
Well, and
That's my thought.
And we had talked about how it used to look down there, and these folks are coming down there to make it as it is now. So I totally agree with that. However, as it's already been stated, we don't want to take that $20,000 that's supposed to go to the people and have to spend it on the cost. So I think it's a tough call. Nobody wants to hurt the vendors. We're talking not more than 7, and for certainly them, they may say that's a lot of Fridays. But I would tend to agree with what I'm hearing as a majority that we would do well to keep it where it is. But if we could move it to Thursday, that might be a win-win. But that being said, how do we cast a vote on this?
Well, you could certainly say, keep it in the downtown, but explore dates, additional dates. Now, I remembered why Friday night was selected is there was hopes that we could have, when we had the downtown events, that we would have and I think we did a couple of them like that, where you had the farmer's market between 3 and 5, and then you actually closed US 1 and had an event from 6 to the rest of the evening. So I believe that was the synergy, that I just recalled that as to why Friday was selected.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this, and, this is all about business, for sure. You got all these hundreds of people down there. To me, if I had a business and I wanted it to thrive, then I would be in those lines. I would be giving out those certificates or something, coupons to say, come to my business. If you're looking for specific people to come who normally come to your place, you may find yourself making $100 versus making $500 with the people you have in your hand. So I certainly would suggest any business who is complaining about not having parking, you actually have people parked there. They just need to know that there's places open that want them to come and spend their money. That's what I would be looking for sure.
Member Robinson.
Yes, Ian, is that cost difference per activity?
No, sir, that's a total.
That's all
That's total.
7
And these are
activities?
estimated cost.
Okay, all activities together?
Yes,
That's what my
total.
question. And of course, if that was a cost difference per activity, it would be much easier to make the decision.
Nope, that's a total amount for up to 7.
Okay. And I concur that I think that being that there's not been any major injuries or any major upsets doing these activities, I think with where we stand now, again, I agree with that we need to hear from the community, but at this point, I agree that we should keep it downtown on Friday.
All right, I see no more lights. Call the cards, please.
There's no cards.
Okay, then let me have a motion. Member Nelson.
I would move to recommend that City Council approve the MOU for the Titusville Area Chamber of Commerce to continue to operate a fall farmers market token program, and recommend the location at the downtown area.
And I need one more thing.
And that staff
An
and.
associated budget amendment, please.
Oh, and the associated budget amendment. Sorry about that. And that we look at perhaps doing it on Thursday instead of Friday.
That second's a lot easier than making the motion, isn't it? All right, I've got a motion from Member Nelson, a second from Vice Mayor, Vice.
It's okay, yeah. But I just want to make sure it's clear that if it can't be done on that Thursday, then we certainly continue on the Friday.
On Friday, right.
Okay.
Right, that's the way I understand it. Roll call vote?
Member Nelson? Yes. Chairman Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jordan?
Yes.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Sokol?
Yes.
Member Aker?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. That moves us to petitions and requests. Petitions and requests from the public, please. Hi. Where's she going? Stan, you going with them? You coming, just an idea.
We're going to have an event at Fox Lake Park here last Sunday in September. I don't remember what the date is. It's going to be another West Virginia Day, Fox Lake Park. So that's close to Titusville. And so I'll be the chairman there. And we're going to have free hot dogs as long as they last. Starts at 12:30, that's Sunday, so that'll be after church. Some people come by, especially these people who are West Virginia, have been
Did you say a time,
natives.
Stan, last
Yeah,
Sunday?
it starts at 12:30, goes to about 3:15. So it'll be out there. You just
Looks like the 25th.
Okay, there you go. That's Sunday. Yeah, I forgot my notice here. So it's, and we might have some events like pie eating contest and some other things like maybe tug of war and looking at each other and talking and things like that and grinning. So we're going to have that, and oldest West Virginia person there to be recognized and so forth. That's one item. The other item I have is I'm reading something to you. You may have heard this before. Here's a letter from somebody back in July, and they're talking about some sewage that was in the park. She said, I had days worth of migraines, nausea, another reported vomiting, headaches, rashes, and even a few who went to the hospital with MRSA. Not to mention the utility workers who were exposed, that's the city utility workers who were exposed to COVID, likely through the sewage as they worked to repair it. That's from Stell Bailey. Here we have from a letter from Libby Levette, and I think you've heard this before. I had a similar reaction. I had burning eyes, nose, throat, severe headache, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Please remember that I also have pre-existing health conditions that were exasperated. And it goes on to say about red eyes and lung disease and toxic exposure to cyanobacteria. And here's one that says, especially taking note of the railing around the pond at Veterans Memorial Park. The slime on that was so thick it could not be denied, and others. So that has to do with that. That's something which has been somewhat ignored, and that is this sewage spray. So I'm asking you to take a real serious consideration of to not let it happen again. And it even mentions courtesy of city council. That's you guys. And it's also chairman of board of directors of Parish Hospital. I think y'all remember who that is. That's our civil engineer.
Thank you.
Mr. Jordan. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Executive Director.
Yes, sir. The executive director's report is included in your agenda packet. Subject to your questions, that completes my report.
Member Ball.
A quick one. Is anybody from staff or any other member planning to go to the Florida Redevelopment Association meeting? It's being held in Daytona Beach this year, October 12th through 14th. Been a lot of years since I attended one, but if I had an interest or any other member had an interest, do we have ability to do that? I'm willing to pay for my own travel.
In the past, what we do basically is bring that to the council or in this board. I'm not sure if it has to be the council or this board, probably council.
The council would, of course, authorize it, but the request would be from the CRA to request the council to approve it.
Okay.
And it is budgeted.
Yeah, I don't see it as a major issue. I think that we've certainly done the Member Stokel and League of Cities, and I think it's been beneficial to us. I think that would be beneficial as well.
The fee goes up if it's not paid by October 3rd, so I will even do it myself if the desire is not to fund it, but if the city would cover the conference fee as me as a representative of the city CRA, I'll travel back and forth to Daytona in my own car without any consideration of reimbursement.
I certainly have no problem with that. I think it would benefit us, and it would look good on us for being there. That being said, we need to make a motion to approve that.
What you'll make a motion for is to recommend to city council that you
Okay.
approve Member Ball to attend that, and we'll make it an agenda item at your next meeting.
This would be a good time for us to make that motion.
I just
Oh,
got
do I
a
have a card
card.
on this?
Yes, I just got a card just now from Stan.
On what?
A card from Stan.
On non-agenda items, yes?
It's a vote.
Okay. I bet.
I want to remind you that when you have a vote and I have a card in that I'm recognized.
Well, the card
And
went in
because-
when we were talking about it, so I didn't see you sneak up there.
Yeah, well, sometimes I don't sneak. I put it in there first thing, which I'm going to do
Yeah,
this
those
next
are the ones
meeting.
I'm used to.
So anyhow, I don't have objections to this, but there's times that I've been passed over and it hurt my feelings. Thank you.
Any other cards on this?
No more cards.
All right. Now, can I get a motion on it?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we recommend to the council that we pay for the registration only? Are you sure? You don't want the travel? Do we know how much the registration is? $395. There you go. Okay. We pay for the registration for Mr. Ball to attend.
We'll certainly try to hit
By the
it
way.
before the 3rd of October.
Second.
Make sure it's paid by October.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Member Ball. Any other comments? Anything else? All right, with that, we will reconvene at 10 minutes after the hour. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.